Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we're here today to talk about the Battlefield 1 open beta. I managed to put in 6 hours last night with my brother over on the Xbox One, and I walked away having had even more fun than I did in the alpha, but particularly because of the new map, Sinai Desert, which is available in the open beta. By the way, the open beta is open for everyone right now. It's about 7 gigabytes. I strongly recommend you give it a go. This is the perfect opportunity to test out the game's multiplayer, at least a small portion of the game's multiplayer experience for yourself, and see whether or not you like it. Grab some friends, give it a go. I imagine that even if you don't end up buying the full game, you're bound to still have some fun playing the open beta this week. So where do we start? There's actually lots to talk about. This is sort of my good, the bad, and the ugly, or the good, and the ugly, because there's not really that much bad to talk about. The plain and simple fact is, I like Battlefield 1. I liked the alpha, and I like the beta even more. There's some nice refinements and tweaks that have been made in terms of guns. They've, decreased some of the firepower on the handguns, which were a little bit too powerful and had a little bit too much range capability in the alpha, so they've definitely taken what they have gotten in terms of feedback from the alpha and refined the game a little bit more. But let's actually start by talking about that new map, which you can play in Conquest as well as in Rush inside of the beta. So this is the first time we're seeing the return of Rush for BF1. Sinai Desert, though, when it comes to Conquest, is an incredibly well-designed piece of map. It's an incredibly well-designed environment. I think it highlights all of the strengths of Conquest as a mode. I think it showcases Frostbite and the prowess that it has as a development engine, and I think it's one of the best pieces of map design that DICE has made ever. I think it's right up there with some of our favorite maps, Erica Harbor, so on and so forth. It is an outstandingly well-designed map when it comes to Conquest. Now, I think Rush suffers a little bit, and I did not enjoy playing Rush on Sinai Desert. I would have loved to see DICE build maps specifically for Rush, but it is what it is, and I'm hopeful that there will be other maps in the full release that do Rush better than Sinai. But let's focus on Sinai when it comes to Conquest. Now, obviously, the Frostbite is an incredible engine, and Sinai Desert is a really great showcase of that. Like, if I was going to showcase, a studio or, whatever, a firm or, I don't know, a potential publisher like my game engine, and it was Frostbite, I would use this map because it is freaking drop dead gorgeous. Not to mention the level of detail and atmosphere when we talk about how sand and wind and everything has been handled on this map. It is absolutely staggeringly beautiful, and it never stops reminding you of that. Explosions kicking sand up in the air, crumbling buildings, the sandstorm blowing in, causing absolute chaos, the canyons, the rock sides, the way that they've designed all the little small the small village in Sinai, as well as the old destroyed ruins. The way they did the dunes leading out into one of the standalone capture objectives. Like, it's just constantly like, hey, I'm pretty beautiful, right? You like me? Look at my atmosphere. Look at it all shiny and sticking out. It seriously just does not let up, and that is a really good thing, obviously. Now, in terms of actual layout and map design, when we talk about gameplay, when it comes to Conquest, I love what they've done with Sinai. There is such a large amount of variety. There are all these great little micro environments within the larger environment that is Sinai. So as I mentioned, you've got a capture point way out in the desert. You got to sort of make this long trek to it. It leaves you exposed to airplane fire. It leaves you exposed to any sort of armor or vehicle that are out that way if you decide to go on foot or even on a horseback. You've got a village that is much more active and alive. You've got doors and shutters to open everywhere. Really amazing CQB stuff. I had a lot of fun fighting in that specific area. There's nothing quite like opening a shutter just to see a guy running in time to mow him down with your Lewis gun. Really incredibly satisfying. Not to mention just shredding doors open with LMGs and grenades. The buildings are incredibly destructible. They've definitely ramped up the destruction from what we saw in Battlefield 4. That makes some really awesome moments. Even grenades can bring down like walls and stuff now if they're weak integrally or something. I don't know. I've seen a lot of walls fall down from grenades, and I was really shocked by that. But nonetheless, it is a welcome addition to the overall destruction experience in Battlefield. Outside of that, you've got like a little canyon area. We've got the entire length of the railroad tracks running through the map. You've got, again, those destroyed ruins. Like, if they wanted to take all the best pieces of what many people imagine in their heads when they think Lawrence of Arabia and, desert-type environments like this, I think they did that, and they shoved them all into Sinai. and it just does really well from a combat and from an objective perspective for that reason. There's a lot of great flanking points. It's a map that has a reasonable learning curve, though. I think a lot of people early on don't like the map. I know I didn't, because it feels so clustered and it feels really large. You know, it feels like, oh my god, there's stuff everywhere. How am I ever going to wrap my head around this? But after a couple hours, even after the first 2 hours, you start to develop that map knowledge. You start to see all these flanking points and these little lines of sight that you didn't see before, and the map opens up and becomes much more enjoyable. Past the 6 hour mark for me, where I'm at, I'm, you know, like in love. My brother and I, just as two people, coordinating all these wonderful little attacks. I can only imagine how great this map would be on Conquest to play with an actual squad that's communicating, or a group that's, you know, active on TeamSpeak, getting together like, hey, yeah, man, okay, you guys go around the ridge, we're gonna push to the center of the town, I'll hit them with smoke and gas and we'll go in. Like, that's how good the map design is. And there have been for me, plenty of amazing Battlefield moments based around that map design. Now, really, the icing on the top of the cake, the cherry on the top of the sundae, the jelly inside of the donut, is the dynamic weather for Sinai, which, of course, eventually brings around an epic frickin' sandstorm. No, not the song by Darude, a legitimate sandstorm. It is one of the best sandstorms, if not the best sandstorm I have ever had the opportunity of killing people in first person inside of a video game. It is seriously that good. Your visibility is cut down to about 10 to 20 meters. You kind of have this weird boldness, you know? You're a little bit concerned that someone's going to run into you, but you almost feel like, I'm going to use the sandstorm as cover. Get on my horse and I'm going to cut all these people's heads off. It's going to be crazy. You feel like a badass running through the sandstorm, kicking up doors to buildings, like clearing them out. Oh man, it just puts such a big grin on my face. Like, I cannot explain how much fun I've had playing on this map. It's genuinely made me fall back in love with Battlefield again. As much as I enjoyed my time with the alpha, I had my doubts as to whether or not I was going to pick up BF1. I completely disagree with their decision to do premium again. Splitting the community with paid map DLC is incredibly stupid and silly. I will not be buying that DLC. And for a while, I was like, why buy the game? You know, why should I bother? But after last night, the amount of fun that I had playing just with my brother and even playing alone, I'm like, how could I not buy this? Like, this is the most fun I've had in a Battlefield or even in a first-person shooter in so long. There's just a lot of really great gameplay design decisions here. And you know what? Small things go a long way. Opening those shutters and those doors, you know, just the way the sand kicks up from explosions, that sandstorm itself, the way they handled the horses. There's a lot of small details in the game that really they're just force multipliers for the fun factor this time around. And I've had a lot of fun for that reason. Now, the beta is not perfect. I still think there's some balancing decisions that have to be made, some refinements that have to be made. Hopefully, they take the feedback from the beta, they make those tweaks and refinements before the game's full launch in October. The biggest one that a lot of other people are pointing out is people really ignoring armor. I actually had 2 instances yesterday, so out of the 6 hours, only 2 instances really, where I went personally on a 32-2 killing spree inside of a tank while defending the points. And then my brother, the next round, so we're with the same group of people, so this definitely has something to do with it, went 35-0 inside of a heavy tank while, again, moving back and forth defending 2 objectives in Conquest. Now, there's 2 reasons for this that a lot of people are pointing out, or there's 2 reasons at least that I believe. Number 1 is that it does seem to be a small issue with the way that DICE has tried to encourage people to PTFO more, to play the objective. They've increased the amount of score and points that you get as an individual from capping objectives. So it seems that people are incredibly focused on that and ignoring armor because they can just keep capping the point back and forth to earn more experience and more points. That obviously is no good. People ignoring armor is no good. But here's the thing. Games, day one, games in beta, games even the first week of their release are never the same as they are 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks after launch. And I think the real issue now is there's just a lot of people playing the game who haven't really played Battlefield before. Or maybe just haven't likely played Battlefield in a while. They haven't played Battlefield 1. It is a different game. I know to you and me, those of us who play shooters every single frickin' day, it's no big deal to transition to a game that has a slightly different experience. We catch on. But that's not the case for everybody. Some people, it takes a little bit longer to learn. It takes a little bit longer for them to understand, oh, the assault class is the one that has all of the anti-tank stuff. Oh, okay, this is how I can use dynamite to the best of my ability. So on and so forth. So I think it's more so a matter of learning experience. And when people wrap their head around it all, we'll see less and less of these crazy tank sprees happening. I hope. I still think it's something DICE obviously needs to look into on their end, look at the numbers, and figure out whether or not it's a legitimate balance issue. I'm happy that they made a push to try and get people to play the objective more. And it will suck if it backfires and there ends up being all of this chaos with the way armored vehicles are handled. They really do require a little bit more focus, in my opinion. You know, we may not have 20 different types of rocket launchers. And on top of that, you also have vehicles that can self-repair. The driver can repair while they're inside, you know, so they don't have to expose themselves. This means that you really need to hit these tanks hard. You can't hit them and then leave them for 20 minutes and expect to come back. The guy's going to have repaired by then. And that's exactly what I was able to do last night while playing. I had plenty of opportunities to repair my tank, to get it back up to full health, and to just get back into it and start slaying people again. So, yeah. We'll see how it pans out. I think it's definitely something where you need to wait until the full release, see how people treat the game then. But again, I hope that DICE is also looking at things, trying to say, hey, yeah, you know, maybe we can refine that a little bit. Maybe we can tweak that a little bit. Maybe we can do this to encourage people to deal with armor more readily. At the end of the day, I think it's a really hard thing to to actually try and encourage or, you know, sort of control the psychological element of how people play video games. So best of luck to them with that. I know it's not an easy thing. All that aside, though, 6 hours, that's only happened to me in one specific match in 2 rounds. The rest of it's actually been pretty close. I was pretty impressed with how close the Conquest matches we had you know, actually were. There was a lot of like 30 and 20 point gaps. We even had one that was at like 10 points. Just a lot of really tight matches with a lot of, you know, points being transferred, a lot of areas of the map being controlled for extended periods of time by one faction, while the other side eventually came in and broke it up. I really like this map. I think it plays amazingly well on Conquest, and all in all, guys, I'm super happy with what I've got to play in the beta. It's just kind of secured my enjoyment for the game a little bit more than it already was back in the alpha. You know, all things aside, in regards to my personal feelings on the World War I setting, it's still an amazing first-person shooter. It's a Battlefield game, which definitely makes it unique. And you know what? When you're running to that sandstorm on the back of a horse, with a friend next to you, on foot with an LMG, clearing out houses and capturing points with about 10 feet of, you know, of actual clearance because of the sandstorm, the atmosphere is going to kick in. You're going to feel really, really badass, and you're going to remember what made you like the game so much in the first place. At least that's what happened with me. If you guys have any thoughts of your own regarding the BF1 Open Beta, if you've been playing it, let me know what you love about it. Let me know what you don't love about it. Do you have any personal concerns yourself in regards to balance for the scoring system and the way that armor is being handled in terms of tanks? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you haven't played it yet, give it a download. Go check it out for yourself. You just might actually have some fun. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.